up, guys? Tambo here with your Week 6 core report. It's an exciting time to be a Run Pure Sports member as we parlay another big week of winning with the start of the NBA season. Here's a recap of last week. No sports were off limits for winners this past week. Relay 20 hit for $8K on the NASCAR slate. Brad Combe won $5K in an MLB playoff slate. Max Hankins gave a preview of what members can expect, shipping for $21,000 in NBA preseason. BigT had another big week, hitting for over $37,000 in CFB. For the NFL main slate, GK 2400 won over $10K on FanDuel, while our guy Locks shipped an NFL Live final seat. But the biggest wins came on Monday Night Football, when the top of the leaderboard was littered with RPS logos again. JSU led the way with his core plays featuring Captain Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert and Joshua Palmer in the flex. His winning lineup was topped off with Russell Wilson and Dustin Hopkins, as well as low-owned $200 Greg Dulcich, who was talked up big on our free Monday Night Football Showdown show by special guest Chris Rando.
He's fast. He runs like a 4.7 40, and he can actually play the slot. He gives very difficult matchup situations. He's fast. He's got hands. Don't be surprised tonight if maybe he's out there in the mix and, he gets, a few catches and, who knows what happens.
This is your weekly reminder to head on over to our YouTube page and hit subscribe to access all of our great free content. Our guy Johnny AirPods wasn't the only one repping RPS at the top, shipping for over $50K. Matt Attack Lax ran the same lineup twice, shipping for over $95,000. Phil Mike's Bra also shipped for $10,000, while Nuggets hit for $14,000. Now is the time to join us. Head on over to runpuresports.com and sign up for a membership today. Again, all sports are included for one price, and NBA starts this week. You won't want to miss out when our team gets hot during hoop season. Remember, if you're not winning with us, you're watching us win. Till next time, let's keep running pure.
What is going on? Happy Saturday and welcome to the NBA Hardwood. I'm Eric Crane and I am joined. We got the Saturday crew here. It's a good time. We got the man coming fresh off of a win last night. Gary, how we doing, man?
Well, pretty good, yeah. So I was sweating that out a little bit late last night. That game was going into double OT, was about to go to double OT, and I thought I was going to lose the shipper over there on FanDuel, but I can't believe Benny Mathurin at 4,300 on FanDuel was only 6% owned. He got me a 35 piece, put me over the top. So thank you to him. I also had Brandon Ingram in there. He was 7%. Everybody was trying to play Zion yesterday. I went the other way with Ingram. So it was definitely a nice night and looking to replicate that here tonight.
Yes, sir. It's going to be a good night for all of us tonight, too. You mentioned Mathurin. He was somebody during the draft process I didn't like. And I'm not like some top 15 draft expert or somebody like some people. But, yeah, Mathurin is an absolute stud. I was dead wrong on him. Before I get to DC, I want to let you guys know, I am going to be monitoring the likes, all right? This is a no bullshit kind of show. So I'm going to be monitoring the likes. I want to see those likes up. I'm going to be hanging out in the chat with you guys, too. If you got any questions, I will be glad to let Gary and DC answer them. And I will just moderate because that's how I roll sometimes. And, yeah, but I want to get up to – what do you think is a good – we got 275 watching right now. What do you think is a good number to get to the likes? DC, do you know?
I think we can get to 200 likes today.
All right.
Yeah, we probably got a little bit of a slow start, right, with the UFC main event, Oliveira and Makhachev going down.
I am in a room without a TV, and I'm not happy about it right now, so I'm going to be missing the main event. So yeah. I'm sure you guys are there sweating it, so you'll have to let me know what happens there. But, yeah, okay, we want to get to 200 likes. That little push got us up to 128. DC says 200 likes. We got Santa DC over here. So all we need is another oh, God, the likes are flying right now. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And I didn't get to introduce him. Draft Cheat. Peter, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing good, other than the unfortunate start time for the show, but happy to be talking NBA hoops with you guys. I don't know who I replaced here. I took the show on late notice this week, and whoever it was that was supposed to be on the show must have timed it better than I did and realized that the UFC main event would be going on at the exact time. I thought it would be over by now. I mean, these fights started like 6 hours ago. I thought I would be safe, but a bunch of decisions. So yeah, we'll check out that fight after the show. I turned it off. So
wow,
no
you are
spoilers.
better than me. This is see, about 2 weeks ago, I was on during the Cardinals Phillies playoff game. I was on a Friday show, and I started off in the ninth inning with the Cardinals winning 2-0. And I thought I was just fine. I was going to get to watch. The next thing I know, the Phillies put up a 6th spot to eliminate my Cardinals. And anyways, that's why I can't watch like TV when I'm on.
I can't do it either. And I've done so many shows with Travis Mangone over the years. He never listens to what I'm saying, right? So like I say something, he like repeats the same thing. I don't want to be that guy where my eyes are like off at the TV. I don't hear what you guys are talking about. When I'm doing a show, I want to be doing the show. I want to be engaged, having a good conversation with you fellas. So I did turn the fight off. I will check it out as soon as the show is done. But another good slate in the association, and yeah, Gary, congrats on the big hit last night. Let's run it back tonight.
Gary, are you watching the fights? Are you as good of a partner as DC? Wow, you guys are good.
I can't do that either. Like DC said, I mean, I'd be all in the TV and not about what I'm talking about. You'd have you as the host would be like, Gary, it's your turn to talk, and it just wouldn't be good.
That's how it was when I did it. Holden's like, Crane, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't fucking know, man. The Phillies are
what game are we on?
Yeah, I don't know. We were talking NFL at the time, and I'm just like, this is just absolute misery. So yeah. All right, let's get into this NBA slate. We got 8 games tonight. We're still waiting on just a little bit of news. If you guys see any news, DC, Gary, go ahead and let me know, because I'm going to be staring at these likes. I'm going to be staring at the chat. I'm going to be staring at your beautiful faces, and I might miss it. So let's go ahead and kick off the first game. It's the Pistons at the Pacers, a massive 230.5 point total. Detroit 1.5 favorites. We're still waiting on Jalen Smith news. And Gary, this is kind of a weird spot because it's tough to build our lineups and know exactly what we're going to get before we get the Jalen Smith news. How are you treating this Pacers situation right now?
Yeah, so I think didn't Jalen Smith, I think he got hurt in the last game. I'm kind of expecting him to sit here, so I'm building my lineups right now as he was going to sit. Problem is, we don't know whether they're going to start Goga or Isaiah Jackson. Those would be the 2 candidates to start. Either way, I think both of them are decent value options on this slate. So yeah, I'm expecting Smith to be out here. And it's really hard not to like Tyrese Halliburton. I know the chat last night was going absolutely bonkers because I think he only played like 2 minutes in the second quarter.
It was a rough first half.
Yeah, he ended up only playing 27 minutes total in that game, and he still put up a 50-piece in the end. So just to own all the Discord haters, he was also in my FanDuel lineup last night. So that rise to the top there at the end was very nice for me. I'm going to go right back to him here at 8K. I mean, this has the highest total on the slate. I think it beats, it's the highest total on the slate here. It's close spread, 1 point spread here. Like both sides a ton. Tyrese Halliburton is going to lead the way for me. Terry Taylor is also, he should get the start again here. Nothing exciting for Terry Taylor, but you can kind of expect 15 to 22 DraftKings points for 3,500. I'll take that in my lineup. And then another guy, I don't think I'm going to be going back to Mathurin here, especially on DK specifically. He's 6.1 on DK. I believe he's 5K on FanDuel, so still a really good value option on FanDuel, and he most likely will be in my lineup tonight. I'm going to go right back to the well over there. So yeah, I definitely like Indiana here a ton. And then going over to the Detroit side, I mean, Cade Cunningham, 7,800. He's going to be probably the highest owned Piston tonight, but he has triple-double upside every slate. He's playing over 30 minutes a game. He hasn't popped for 40 DraftKings points yet, but I think he can here. There's just 2 teams that don't play any defense. It's going to be up and down. Like him a ton. Sadiq Bey is in play, 5,500. That's too cheap for him. And even Bojan Bogdanovic at 5,400, really good value option there. I like that price tag quite a bit. Probably going to stay away from Jaden Ivey here, 6,900 on DraftKings. I just don't see that the upside at that price here. tonight, like other options there.
Yeah.
And that's probably it for me in this game. But yeah, I like this game a ton. There's going to be some ownership on it. But I think we might get a little bit of discounted ownership just because of one of the late games with all the injury news out there with the Clippers. So I like this game a ton.
Yeah, DC, when I look at this Indiana side, I look at Halliburton and he's 8K, and I think might be a little bit of sticker shock with that price, but boy, it's tough to fade the dude that's just putting up 50 pieces. Like he is this whole offense right now. What are you doing with this game, DC?
Yeah, unfortunately, I did have Mr. Jalen Smith.
Yep, me too. He had almost as many minutes as I had fantasy points. It wasn't great.
Yeah, it wasn't great. He wasn't doing great anyway. I'm not actually sure that he was like hurt, right? I mean, his injury to begin with yesterday and coming into the season was knee tendonitis, which is like something that, maybe you sit, but like you could play through that. I think he could have played through it. He just wasn't playing well. The whole team wasn't playing well. Rick Carlisle, the Indiana coach, it was a weird game. I was on Jalen Smith, like I said, and then I was also on Halliburton. So I was watching this game pretty closely last night. What was it, midway through the second quarter, Carlisle just like got sick of the starters. He benched all 5 starters, pulled them all. That's why Halliburton played so few minutes overall in the game, and especially in the first half. And then Jalen Smith never came back into the game. Actually, he did come back for like 1 minute in the third quarter. So I kind of expect him to sit, but you could see Carlisle was like searching for anything that would work in this game. I mean, he played, I think, 12-man rotation, which is about as big of a rotation as you'll see from the NBA. He was subbing guys in and out all over. If you go to a great resource, Popcorn Machine, you can see the rotations. You don't see many charts like that one where it's just players moving in and out. Of course, Halliburton takes over in the second half. If you look at some of the advanced numbers for Halliburton, I mean, he is right up there with like the most true lead guard role in the entire league in terms of the amount of times he has the ball, pick and roll possessions, potential assists, drives, anything you want to look at. Halliburton looks like he's going to be night in and night out in this role. Just a fantasy, bonanza type of play. So yeah, I'm back in on him, especially after, you worry a little bit about the back-to-back, but only 27 minutes last night with the weird rotations. Kind of expect him to take over. Detroit actually had the worst pick and roll defense in the league last year as well. Something that I expect to kind of continue this year too. So I think Halliburton can absolutely eat in this matchup. 8K. I really think he's a 9K, 9.5K player. He'll be owned for sure, but some of these, these lead guards, right? The lead point guards, they're the tough fades. You can fade the high owned centers that can get in foul trouble or stuff like that, or they're reliant on other stuff. But dudes that have the ball in their hand every single possession, like Halliburton does, they're going to get there most often in the end. So yeah, I'm backing on him. I think it's a great matchup. We'll see what they do with the bigs. If Jalen Smith plays, I'm going to avoid these Indiana bigs because it's just not. It's pretty clear their coach doesn't know who's the best one. He's trying to find something that works. I don't think they really want to start Jalen Smith. I wouldn't actually be shocked if he got back in the starting lineup somehow. But if he does sit, like Gary mentioned, I do think you got to at least look at Isaiah Jackson and Goga Bitadze. I actually wouldn't have a problem playing just whoever doesn't start because I think the minutes are so up in the air between the two that it's just going to go to whoever's playing well. The starter could easily get in foul trouble or get benched, and the minutes could go the other way. But whoever gets that start, if Jalen Smith is out, is going to be 3, 4, 5 times as owned as the guy that comes off the bench. And I think if you're trying to project the minutes, I would project him pretty much for the same amount of minutes. So that's going to be a situation to monitor. And then, Terry Taylor, not the most exciting play, but 3,500 for a starter who's going to maybe see some minutes at the 5 as well. You got to be a little bit interested in that. But yeah, mostly just Halliburton for Indiana. And then you're watching the news on the bigs. For Detroit, their lead guy, Cade Cunningham, you can certainly go there. Price is rising a little bit, 7,800. He's been good, not great so far, but hasn't shot the ball well. I do think a big game is coming for him sooner rather than later. So it could be a good time to jump on that Cade Cunningham train.
Yeah, I think Cade is always a fine play. I know Hoop loves him. I was watching the show yesterday, and Hoop's just in love with the dude. You guys mentioned Isaiah Jackson. He's somebody that if Jalen Smith is out at $4,000, you're going to see, I think, just his projection be through the roof to a point where I know that we don't hate the bench guys, and the minutes are certainly iffy, but he would have a projection that I would have a tough time fading. Speaking of guys I have a tough time fading, let's move to Boston and Orlando, 216-point total. Boston 8.5-point favorites. And yeah, we love the Celtics to win this game, but Gary, it is awfully tough for me to fade Paolo right now.
He's looked simply incredible. Like somebody said it on the show yesterday or somewhere. Like, imagine if the Magic passed up on him and how he would just be a disaster for the Magic. But yeah, he's been awesome. But 7,600, his price tag is warranted. He's put up back-to-back 46 DraftKings points.
I think he's still too cheap.
He looks phenomenal, but he did play Detroit and Atlanta, and now he gets a tougher defensive team here in the Boston Celtics. I do like him. He's not like a core piece for me. He would probably be it for me on this Orlando team. Wendell Carter, I like to play Wendell Carter for some reason. His price tag always jumps out at me and say, "Oh, that's pretty cheap for Wendell Carter." And then he puts up 30 to 32 DraftKings points and doesn't really get me there. So I think I'm out on him tonight, and the rest of these guys. It just doesn't do anything for me. Franz Wagner is 6K. Like, that's probably about right for his price. Like I said, just Paolo for me. And on the Boston side, it's really interesting. We know Jason Tatum has just looked incredible, but you look behind the curtain a little bit. Jaylen Brown has the usage advantage over Jason Tatum. He's coming in at $1,000 less at 8,700. I like Jaylen Brown here quite a bit against this Orlando team. I think I'm going to pass on Tatum at 9,700. I just like other higher priced options later on the slate. But yeah, I do like Jaylen Brown. And I think people will go back to Marcus Smart, 5,500. That's just a really appealing price tag. But he has a pretty wide range of outcomes. So definitely not a safe play. He got 16 points against Miami last night and 30 against Philly the game before that. So not a ton of interest in this game. It does have the lowest total on the slate, it looks like. So yeah, just Paolo and Jaylen Brown mostly for me here.
Any Noah Vonleh love? I see him projecting okay.
So I forgot to mention. So it looks like Horford's out for this game. So I don't know if it's either going to be Vonleh starting or Grant Williams. I'm probably thinking it's going to be Grant Williams that gets to start here. Vonleh is just not a guy that I normally ever play. Plus, he's center only on DraftKings. That's really tough to take up a center spot with Noah Vonleh. So I'm not going to have any Noah Vonleh, but Grant Williams at 4K, if he gets to start, he's coming off 26 DraftKings points last night in Miami. Hopefully this Boston team didn't go out and party too hard last night for this game. But I do like some Grant Williams here too.
DC, we like Paolo. We like the Boston side. Do we like just fading this whole game? What do you like?
I'm going to be fading Paolo here. I know he's been awesome. He's looked great, but this is a tough spot. Back-to-back going into Boston, the best defensive team in the league. Just one of the most prepared teams in the league, right? They're going to I'm not saying Banchero caught people by surprise these first two games, but Boston's going to be ready for him. And maybe he's the level of star that he can just do this every night, no matter what. But, like you said, two of the best matchups possible against Detroit and Atlanta. Now he gets, I think, the worst possible matchup for him, basically going to have to contend with defense from Smart, from Jaylen Brown, from Jason Tatum, a lot of good defenders on the Celtics. I'll be surprised, honestly, if Paolo can do it for a third time in a row. Maybe he can, but I'll be looking elsewhere. I think Boston probably wins this game rather easily. I do think the Horford thing is pretty interesting. Again, if you look at the substitution patterns from last night, Noah Vonleh basically played essentially every single minute that Al Horford didn't, right? They basically split those 48 center minutes between the two of them. Of course, it was Horford who got more of them. But I don't, Grant Williams isn't a center. I don't know why Robert Williams is out as well for the Celtics. I think Vonleh will get the start. That's my expectation anyway. He's been extremely foul prone throughout his career, including in these last two games. I mean, first game against Philly, he played 20 minutes. Last night, he played 14, 4 fouls in each of those two games. So foul trouble could be an issue here for sure. But, if he starts and is able to stay on the court, I mean, he could have a massive game. They really don't have much behind him. I mean, Blake Griffin is the other guy, but he didn't even get in the game last night. So I think Vonleh definitely has bust potential, but I mean, he's definitely got 35, 40 plus fantasy point upside at 3,400. If he stays out of foul trouble, I think he's gonna, I mean, what, 8-10x? What's your saying?
37x. That's what we need.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to get 37.
I only need like 140 points out of Noah Vonleh.
Yeah, but I think he's got a really good shot to reach value, assuming he's in the starting lineup, which I do think he will be. If they do go to Williams, to Grant Williams as the center, yeah, I'm going to be in on that. But I do think it will be Vonleh, and I'll probably play him if it does end up with Vonleh in the starting lineup, as I expect. Of course, you can play Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They're not priorities to get into my lineup, but I don't really want to play them in the same lineup because I think Boston could potentially run away with this game, especially if both of those guys are going off. But they seem really, really safe. The matchup is good here, as good as Banchero is. I don't think he's very good defensively, especially with the offensive load that he needs to shoulder. So I do expect Tatum and Brown to continue to have big games. And then, yeah, the big spot to watch is just to see who starts at center for Boston. I think it'll be either Vonleh or Grant Williams. Whichever one it is probably going to be in my lineup, and we'll just have to wait and see who it is.
So you guys know that, sometimes you're with your girl and she tells you, I need you to do this for me, or I need you to do that for me. And then you do it, and then she goes, well, I also needed you to do this or that. She moves the goalposts a little bit. You know how that can be frustrating? Okay, so Chad, girl. Yeah, well, Chad, I got some bad news for you, Chad, because right now I'm going to be that girl, because I said 200 likes at the beginning, and all of a sudden we got 500 people watching. We're already at 211 likes. I'm moving the goalposts to 300 likes, people. So let's get moving. DC, you were too soft early on. You said 200 likes. We flew past that number. We appreciate you setting the bar low for the people, but we set the bar high over here at Run Pure Sports. So I want to see those likes get up to 300. If you want our plays of the day, if you want the groundhog play of the day, if you want the mom's basement play of the day, if you want the 37X play of the day, you got to get moving and click that like button, because we got 500 of you watching, and it really helps us out over at Run Pure if you click that like button. So help us out. We really appreciate it. We also really appreciate this Cavaliers Bulls game. It's 220 point total. Cleveland 1.5 favorites. Gary, this Bulls side, you've got Io, who's been doing just fine for us. And I guess not that fine the last game, but I still like him. You got DeMar DeRozan, who the price has come up there. What do you think about this Bulls and Cavaliers game, Gary?
Yeah, so with the Bulls, Zach LaVine's making his debut here for this team. I've been playing. I think pretty much all of RPS has been playing DeMar DeRozan and Vucevic and Io to a certain extent over the first couple of games. I think I'm going to be off. I'm definitely going to be off of DeMar DeRozan here, 9,600 at the inflated price tag, based on his performance. I mean, just a usage monster when LaVine is off the court. Even LaVine, 8,200, he's probably going to have his minutes limit, so I'm not going to have interest there. I think the only guy I somewhat have any interest in is Vucevic, still 8,100. That's a really good price tag for him. So I definitely like that. But the rest of these guys, I'm not going to be on Io or Caruso or Drummond, any of these other guys for Chicago. So it's just going to be Vucevic. Definitely not a core piece for me, but I'll definitely have him in my pool. And for Cleveland, Garland is out today. That's huge for Donovan Mitchell. In the short sample this season without Darius Garland, on the court, I think he has something like a 40% usage rate. Just insane. I know it's a small sample and everything, but he's going to be shooting the ball a ton here against the Chicago team. So definitely like him. Karis LeVert, 5,800. He's going to have to pick up some more ball handling duties and shooting responsibilities. 5,800. That's a decent price tag. And I probably would expect CD Osman to get in the starting lineup here at 4K. He's projected for 26 fantasy points at 4K. He's probably going to be the most popular guy on the slate. So you gotta make your decision there whether you think that's good chalk or bad chalk. I've seen it go both ways with Cedi Osman. Probably more of the fail variety as chalk than of the success, but I definitely will have him in my pool. So yeah, it's just Donovan Mitchell is an elite play on this slate. He's just going to be chucking the ball, and he's my favorite play in this game.
Yeah, and the Lucia in the chat says, not Cedi Osman, no! And I'm kind of with you because chalk Cedi Osman has not worked out for me. DC, one, has it worked out for you? Two, do you think it's going to work out tonight?
It could. I mean, he did get the start when Garland, or not the start, but played big minutes in the second half after Garland went down with the eye injury in their last game. So I do think he'll start, but yeah, I mean, he can absolutely bust at 4K. He's not gonna, he's starting in place of their starting point guard, but he's not gonna be the point guard, right? The ball handling duties, the playmaking duties, the usage, I think that's going to go to two people primarily. One, obviously, Donovan Mitchell, who I think is an awesome play here. I think he is. I mean, he's going to go off. If you just look at who Cleveland has left to play guard, they don't have much, right? It's going to be LeVert, who can play make and kind of be, play that the role that Garland played a little bit, and then obviously Donovan Mitchell can pick it up. But that's not really Cedi Osman's role, right? He's going to be kind of more of a scorer. So if he's going to be the most popular play on the slate, I will probably go elsewhere because he can absolutely bust. They do have players that can play his minutes. I don't think those minutes are guaranteed whatsoever. Give me the two guards, right? Mitchell and LeVert are the two guys that I want from Cleveland. I think those guys are going to have big games. Cleveland, they're trying to win. They went all in on the Donovan Mitchell trade. If you look at their rotations, they ran a tight rotation last year. They're doing the same thing again this year. Mitchell and LeVert, I mean, they're probably going to be out there for 38 minutes each with the ball in their hands constantly. If you look at the other starters on the team, right? Jared Allen, he can't, I don't think I've ever even seen him dribble. And then Mobley is not a playmaker dribbler either. So it's going to be all Mitchell and LeVert creating for this team against Chicago, who's on the back-to-back. Yeah, I think the Cleveland guards are going to show out in a big way. And I've been on the DeRozan train these first two games. He's been awesome, but definitely jumping off here. The price is up. The price for all these Chicago guys is up because they've been playing up without Zach LaVine, who, maybe he has his minutes limited, but he's going to get his shots up while he's on the court. Expecting maybe 25, 30 minutes. He'll probably get up 15, 20 shots in that time. And that's enough for the inflated price tags of DeRozan and to some extent Vucevic as well. And then, guys like Caruso, DeSunmo, all those guys. Chicago pretty much completely off the table for me. Cleveland, one of the best defensive teams in the league. So Chicago is a fade, and then I'm mostly on those Cleveland guards in the backcourt.
Yeah, it's really tough to imagine Donovan Mitchell not getting there tonight. 9,200, I would probably pay 10K for him in this spot. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a situation where it's if you talk about trying to have big hits and then small misses on players, right? Maybe Mitchell is a small miss and he puts up, I don't know, 35.
40? I was going to say, is 40 or so? I mean, it's tough to imagine him getting less than that.
Yeah, 35, 40. It seems like a pretty reasonable floor. Of course, anything can happen. It's one game of basketball, but I just don't see really how he's going to necessarily fail, right? You wouldn't be happy with 35 or 40. If you told me he was going to get 40 fantasy points, I don't think I would play him. But the ceiling is 60 plus. And when the floor is that high, right, when he can't really hurt you realistically, but he can be, break the slate with a huge performance, those are obviously the guys you want to invest in. So I'll be in on the Mitchell trend for sure.
Yeah, it's just too good of a spot to really want to fade it. And like DC said, the floor is high, the ceiling is high. And when that's the case, you just want to play those guys. We also want to tell you guys click that like button. We're at 250 likes. If you get to 300, guess what? You get our plays of the day. We got 515 people watching right now. Let's get those likes up, people. We're shooting for 300. Speaking of 300, the Bucks might score 300 tonight. It's a 228.5 point total. Milwaukee 14-point favorites against the Houston Rockets, and Gary Houston's trying to lose every game. Giannis is 11K in this spot. Giannis also might only play 28 minutes in this spot. So I think one of the first decisions you have to make here is, do you play Giannis on the slate? I'm struggling to get him in my lineups. What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think right now I'm leaning as to not playing him at 11K, but man, he's going to be really high owned. I mean, he's looking to be 36, 37% owned on this slate. I don't know if I can get there just based on the spread, but I do think Houston can kind of keep this close.
Really?
I don't
like the basketball game?
Oh yeah, I don't really think that Milwaukee is going to blow this team out by 20 points. So I think we can see a somewhat competitive game. Milwaukee probably ends up winning by 10 in the end. I think that's where I'm planting my flag. So if that's the case, then I have to like Giannis because I think he's gonna have that 30+ minute ceiling. So I'm kind of undecided for now. But it's just really Giannis for me for Milwaukee. I just don't maybe some Brook Lopez. I like centers against Houston, so that's 5,200. That's a pretty good price tag for Brook Lopez. And on the Houston side, I don't think Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be in my pool today. I think he's just going to JSURab is going to be on him all game, chasing him around. I definitely prefer Jalen Green here today. I think he could put up a big number with JSURab on KPJ. And then Bruno Fernando is ruled out already for this game. So we should get Alperen Şengün in the starting lineup. And he is also going to be one of the highest owned players on the slate at 5,400. But man, he is just a fantasy point per minute monster.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard for me not to click him in my lineups. And I'm definitely clicking him over, say, a Noah Vonleh. So if Noah Vonleh is going to be chalk and take some ownership from Şengün, I'll gladly accept that and move on about my day. So yeah, I definitely like this game probably a little bit more than the two of you will. Like I said, because I think Houston can keep it somewhat competitive throughout most of the game. They're just a young team, scrappy team. They got a lot to prove. They got some scores. So I like this Houston team in the long term. So yeah, I might even bet them to cover this game. I haven't decided yet.
I mean, that's shocking because I think Milwaukee wins by about 1 million. But that said, you mentioned Alperen Şengün, and that's the guy that every time he gets minutes, he gets there. And at 5,400, like, it's going to be tough for me not to play him. DC, what are you doing with this spot? Are you playing Giannis? You playing Alperen Şengün, Jalen Green? That's about all I see in this game. What do you see?
Yeah, I do kind of think it's a tough spot for Houston here on the back-to-back going into Milwaukee, who looked pretty awesome in that first game against Philly. I mean, they held the 76ers to 88 points in that first game, which is just wild. I mean, I think Giannis probably going to go crazy here, to be honest. I mean, we saw Ja Morant put up, like 73 DraftKings points yesterday?
About that.
I mean, Ja is fantastic. He's gonna, we'll talk about him later. He's going to continue having big games. If this game stays close, though, Giannis, if he gets the minutes, no Chris Middleton, I mean, he's going to go crazy, right? Blocks and steals, too. Houston plays super fast and loose. They give up a ton of blocks and steals, give up points in transition. I mean, this could be one where Giannis has like 30 fantasy points in the first quarter or something like that. I do think if you're playing Şengün, right? If you think this game stays close enough where Şengün gets his minutes and you're playing him as chalk, I kind of want Giannis on my Şengün teams, to be honest, because if Giannis gets 35 minutes here, he's putting up 60 plus fantasy points. He just is.
Can I take the over on 60 points if he plays 35 minutes?
Yeah, me too, for sure. I don't think that's a hot take or anything, but it's just kind of the reality of the situation. So it's tough to fit him in, right? I mean, we talked about loving Donovan Mitchell. He's not cheap. Giannis isn't cheap. You start to run out of salary a little bit when you're choosing amongst these studs. But I do think Giannis, in terms of, fantasy points per minute, he's got to be the highest projected by far on this slate, at least from where I'm sitting. So I want to get Giannis in my lineups if I can. Sengun, I think, is obviously a good play, but you could see it going south for him. This Bucks team is fantastic defensively. It's not going to be an easy ride for Sengun, and I think a blowout here is, I mean, certainly possible. I think this is the biggest spread that we've seen all year long, although there is one that's actually a little bit bigger that we'll talk about coming up. But yeah, I'm a little bit worried about the blowout here. I do think pairing Sengun and Giannis together makes some sense. The other Bucks, I mean, you can play Drew Holiday, but hard for me to click on Drew Holiday at 8,600.
86, that's a lot for Drew.
It is a lot over a guy like, Donovan Mitchell, who we talked about, over his teammate Giannis, right? Like, I don't think I'm going to play Holiday and Giannis on the same team. And if I have to choose between them, I know they're not the same price. I know they play different positions, but give me Giannis at 11K all day over Drew Holiday at 8,600. And they're both subject to the same blowout risk, right? So I'll be leaning on the Giannis side there. I'm not going to go probably to any other Bucks. I will have exposure to Giannis, some to Sengun, but I'll have some teams too that are just total fades of this game. Hope that Milwaukee gets the job done early, and none of the players that people would play see the court in the fourth quarter, which I do think is a fairly realistic outcome for this game.
Yeah, and look, the chat says Giannis is a lock. It's really hard to argue with that. I have no problem with it. They want to know about Bobby Portis. So we got some Bobby Portis questions in there real quick. Gary, I see you kind of shaking your head a little bit. What do you think about Bobby Portis?
It's just every time I try to play this guy, he just does nothing. Like, I mean, he put up 25 DraftKings points in the first game at 5,600. He played 22 minutes. I just like, I mean, I like the mid five guys for Detroit a lot more. I like Bay and Bogdanovich. I like them a lot more than Bobby Portis. So I won't be playing Bobby Portis today.
The problem with Portis, obviously coming off the bench, right? So the minutes upside is capped a little bit for the most part. And then also, there are some bench players that if the game's a blowout, they will finish the blowout for the team. But most of those guys are younger players, right? Who are like pushing for more minutes. It's not really the case with Bobby Portis. I wouldn't expect him to be out there to close out the blowout. They've got some other bigs that they can throw out there at the end of the game if it does get there. So I just don't see many scenarios where Portis's minutes go much beyond that, low to mid 20s range, and kind of hard to get there in lower minutes. But, this is a fantastic matchup for Milwaukee. I do think they're going to be putting up a lot of fantasy points. I just think, such a large percentage of them are going to go to Giannis. That's the way I want to go with this team.
Yeah. And to the guy in the chat who says that if Milwaukee blows them out, Jordan Nwora is going to crush. Buddy, good luck to you. Look at DC. He gave the big nod on that. Hold on. DC likes Jordan Nwora a little bit.
I wish it was a little cheaper. 4,600 is.
I was making fun of the guy, and you're over here. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, that's amazing.
Well, just what I talked about with Portis. I do think Nwora is one of the guys that is pushing for minutes on the team. They would like to give him more minutes. They just have bodies ahead of him. So he is a guy that I think could potentially, close this game down the stretch. If you're fading the game entirely, maybe you add in Nwora and hope you get some of that blowout run, because he is a good player. It's just hard to project him for many minutes. And if he was 3,200 or something, I would be in 4,600. A little rich for my blood.
All right, let's move on to talking about Toronto and Miami. Again, that should be a little bit closer. Lower scoring, though, 215.5 point total. Miami, 3.5 point favorites. You've got Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam coming off the big games yesterday for Miami. It's been a little bit tough sledding playing on the back-to-back. Bam Adebayo kind of got there yesterday. Still not quite as many as we were hoping for. Gary, is this a game you're interested in? Because the total's quite a bit lower.
I actually do like this game quite a bit.
Okay.
I mean, Pascal Siakam's just been, just so incredible this first week. He's got a 35% usage and a 1.6 fantasy point per minute. It's still too cheap at 8,500, and he's going to be less than 5% owned to get tonight. So anytime you're getting me somebody that has 35% usage, 1.6 fantasy points per minute, 8,500, and is probably going to play close to 40 minutes. We know this Toronto team, they run their starters into the ground, and it hasn't changed so far this season. So I like Pascal Siakam quite a bit here. I'm not going to chase Fred VanVleet that game at 8,300. But I do like Scotty Barnes here quite a bit at 6,700. He's just somebody that fills the stat sheet quite a bit. Coming off, I mean, he's got 35 DraftKings points the last 2 games. That's fine for 6,700. I'd take that every day. Those are probably my the two guys that I have interest in on Toronto. But on the Miami side, I kind of like Tyler Hero here quite a bit as a bring back. If you want to play both, get crazy and play both of the Toronto guys, Siakam and Barnes, run it back with Tyler Hero, 6,300. I like that quite a bit. He's playing 34, 36 minutes, averaging 40 DraftKings points in his first 2 games. 6,300, that's something I'm interested in. So I definitely like Hero here, and I like those 2 Raptors guys.
DC, what about you? Because this is one of those games that I don't know, like these pieces are interesting because Toronto guys, we know we're going to play minutes, mentioned Heroes minutes. We know they're going to be there. It's a game. It's the kind of game environment I don't love attacking usually, but I mean, you've got some pieces here that are interesting. What do you think?
It's a tough one. Like you said, the lower total, both these teams coming off the back-to-back early in the season. So you do worry a little bit about decreased minutes, but like Gary said, you just don't see that from Toronto very often. And they don't really have, I mean, the options, right? Like yesterday they played basically an 8-man rotation. We talked earlier, Indiana played 12 guys. The starters played 37, 36, 38, 36, and 37 minutes. Just crazy amount of minutes for Toronto. And the total's lower, but sometimes games go over the total, right? Sometimes the shots fall. And this could be one of those games. I mean, maybe the teams are a little tired from playing big minutes yesterday, and maybe it goes a direction where the defense slips. And you see this game, if this game finishes 115 to 113 or something, and all the Toronto guys play 35 to 40 minutes again, they're going to have a couple guys get there. It's almost inevitable. So 2 good defensive teams. And I am a little worried about the minutes here, but if you do get the run out where, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is this game looks like a game stack scenario to me. I think is how I would approach it on any individual team where you get the close game. I mean, Jimmy Butler has played 37 and 40 minutes. You've got Tyler Hero there. You've got Kyle Lowry, who's 5,400 coming off a big game. He could play big minutes. I think Bam Adebayo is in play. It's a little hard for me to, single out who exactly I want to play, but yeah, you could stack this game up, and we do see in NBA from time to time, right? You don't want to make most of your teams hoping for overtime or whatever, but who's going to be out there on the court if this game stays close, if it goes to overtime. You could potentially have 5, 6, 7 players from this game get there in the end if you get the right run out. And I mean, that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to win GPPs that have, 500, 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 teams, like shooting for, rare outcomes like overtime. Yes, they're not that common, but it's not that common to be able to win a tournament anyway, right? So it's okay, I think, to go for those rare outcomes. This game could get there. So I might build some game stacks here. There's no players in this game that I'm, in love with individually in terms of projections. I don't think anyone from this game would make, I'm not playing cash games, but if I was, I don't think any players from this game would make a cash lineup or anything like that. But yeah, I do think from a, game theory, trying to win a GPP, I do think a game stack makes some sense in this game.
I don't mind a game stack at all. It's just awfully tough with these prices. Like, if your game stack, are you really fading Jimmy Butler? I think that's difficult. Butler's 9-1 that's a tough sell for me. But I get it, because if you game stack with like Hero and Bam and then bring it back with Brent Vliet, Siakam, and Barnes, that could get there. Absolutely. All right.
A fun one to sweat anyway, right? You get all the good players in this game, and
that's not bad. And then when you do that, then Jimmy goes off for 15 in overtime.
That's not
on the inside. All right. Memphis at Dallas, 219.5 point total. Dallas 6-point favorites here. I know the bet side over at Run Pure Sports, they like Memphis in this one, and it's tough to argue because Memphis coming off the big win, Ja Morant with the big boy game last night. Gary, are we going back to Ja?
I mean, I'm probably not going to do it because he's an elite pivot off of Giannis here as a spend up option. I'm seeing less than 5% ownership across a couple different sites. I mean, it's really tough though, because man, I'm just looking at his usage rate. I mean, he's got a 40% usage rate and a 1.85 fantasy point per minute this season so far. So I mean, just putting the team on his back and just doing everything. But man, this Dallas team, I don't know. I don't think I can do it here. Pretty tough for me to do that. I got Dylan Brooks back in the fold tonight. I believe he's questionable right now, but I think he's going to be in there. I would say this. I would like Ja a lot more if Brooks is still out tonight. And that'll take care of that. But as far as like the cheaper guys, John Concher, I think he's the one most affected by Dylan Brooks if he is indeed back. So definitely will probably be off the Concher train that we've been on the first couple games. I still do like Santi Aldama a little bit here, 5,100 against Dallas. Not too shabby there. I don't think I'm gonna go crazy here though. I need that Dylan Brooks news. I think we just got some other news from other games. Vonleh is starting,
Okay.
and Jalen Smith is available for Indy.
Breaks my heart a little bit. I was really wanting to fire up some Isaiah Jackson, which is just not a sentence I was expecting to say out loud, but here we are. Okay, so yeah, these Memphis Pistons are interesting. What about the Dallas side for you?
Dallas is always just going to be Luka or nothing for me for the most part. I just follow that to a T. I mean, he just commands so much usage in that offense. He's the alpha guy. So I do like Luka here too. So it's going to be some hard decisions for me after the show on which stud or if any stud makes my main build. So
DC, what are you doing here? Are we going back to Ja?
If Brooks ends up sitting, I think you can go back to Ja. I was on Ja last night, and Desmond Bane, who was solid, put up 36 fantasy points at, I think he was 6,900 last night, but only shot 3 for 16 from the field. So he's had 2 bad shooting days in a row, 6 for 22 in that first game.
He's doing his best Dylan Brooks impression.
Yeah, exactly. But if Brooks is out, I'll go back to specifically Desmond Bane. I think is the one that benefits the most from Brooks's absence. But of course, Ja Morant, he's to the level now where I think he's pretty much in play every single slate. It's just a matter of, do you prioritize him, over Giannis or Donovan Mitchell or whatever it is. I probably won't end up with as much Ja tonight. I think I'd prefer to, spend up that extra $600 on DraftKings to get to Giannis myself. But of course, Ja always going to be in play. Interesting last night, the monster game, of course, but he did only play 31 minutes in that game. And then the first game he played 38, but that included 5 in overtime. So really 33 in regulation. So they are, it seems like, a little cautious with his minutes. And now on a back-to-back, we could only see Ja out there for 30, 32 minutes as possible. Maybe he played fewer minutes because it was the first half of a back-to-back that they're going to let him go here. It's hard to know. But I'm not completely confident in a huge amount of minutes for Ja Morant at that price tag. Kind of hard to play him if you don't think you're going to get the minutes. Christian Wood, 7,500 is a really high price tag. I was on him in that first game. I think he's going to be a monster off the bench for Dallas in this role with Luka. He's going to get a ton of wide open threes, dunks. I think he's going to have a huge season. It's just the price tag is a little hard to stomach, but you will get him, I think, at like 1 or 2% ownership, just like we did in the first game. So he's a guy that if you're playing a bunch of lineups, I would want to sprinkle in there a little bit. And then obviously the big news to watch is the Dylan Brooks thing. Again, if he's out, I'll be back on the Desmond Bane train. But I do kind of expect him to play, and if he plays, probably mostly fading this game. Just to circle back to the news that we got with Jalen Smith in, I think you want to fade Indiana except for Tyrese Halliburton. I'm not messing around with those other guys. Just watching that game, it was very clear to me that the coaching staff just doesn't know where to go with these minutes. So if you want to take a shot on those guys, go ahead. But I think the Indiana bigs will be over-owned just because, people were kind of hoping to. they just get like left in lineups, right? To some extent, I think.
Man, see, I was sitting here thinking that Jalen Smith was going to be somebody that wasn't going to be owned at all tonight, just because so many people last night got burned.
He won't be, but I don't really trust it.
No, I don't. I don't trust it. But I'm saying in tournaments, he's somebody that could go for 30 at 5% ownership.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I was on him last night, and I'm not going to play him tonight. But so I do get that play. And then for Boston, Vonleh starting like I thought. I don't know. I mean, I get it if you want to fade him, but it's a tough fade for me. A starting center at 3,400 against Orlando. I'll probably be eating that chalk myself.
All right, let's move on to Denver at home against Oklahoma City. Denver on the back-to-back, 226-point total. Denver, 9-point favorite. So Jamal Murray, I don't think we have news on Jamal Murray yet, but I mean, I'm expecting him to sit, right, Gary?
I think he should be back here. He sat the last game.
Okay. I had it backwards. Never mind. Yeah, he should. So if he's back, then it becomes really difficult with this Denver team. What are you doing here?
Yeah, I don't think I'm in on any of these guys. I think this whole game for me is pretty much a stay away. I think people are going to play Michael Porter Jr. again. I'm just not a Michael Porter Jr. guy. He's another one of those guys that gets you 25 to 35 DraftKings points, which is fine. I mean, I guess that's a good cash option for the cash NBA players, but I won't be going there. And man, this OKC team, I think they played 13 or 14 guys in the last game. It's just a massive rotation. But man, SGA is still doing everything for this team, just like last year. But of course, we can't pay 9,500 for him on this slate. So yeah, this game is a pretty easy cross off for me.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me to play anybody with Murray back. DC, are you playing anybody here?
Not much. Jokic always in play, kind of in the Ja Morant bucket for me. Again, I do prefer Giannis over both Jokic and Ja Morant, but certainly you can mix him in. I do think Murray plays, which for me basically takes off all the other Denver options except for the Joker himself. And then on the OKC side, I like Josh Giddey. I think he's going to have a big role on this team, but 7,900 going into Denver is just a price that I can't stomach. Kind of the same thing for Gilgeous-Alexander. So yeah, I'm with Gary. Can't play everybody. This will be a game that I mostly cross off.
I think you're the first person I've ever heard call him Gilgeous-Alexander instead of just Shea. Don't you know by now that you just take the passive least resistance? Just call the dude Shea and just move.
Listen, I had to do, I had the UFC show yesterday, and you got to learn some names. You got to learn some names for UFC. So, I'm in the habit of pronouncing these, massive names like you do have to for UFC.
The first show I did for Run Pure Sports, they had me on for the U.S. Open tennis tournament. And it's just like I follow a lot of tennis, but I don't watch a lot of tennis to know how the broadcasters pronounce their names. And it was just, and I like Rybakina, I like Sveshnashova or whatever the hell it was. And UFC is a whole different animal, especially on this slate. All right, guys, I've been pushing the likes all show, and I've got good news because we're at 306 likes. The good news is that I'm moving the goalpost to 320 likes. So let's get 14 more. I would want to hear it. We got 616 people. We're working for 300, and we're looking for 320 likes. So go ahead and get it on there and click that like button. It helps us out.
Your girl must really give you, just a task list that never ends.
You know what?
You're pushing people.
Okay, we're talking about my ex-wife now, and the answer is yes. All right, Clippers at Kings, 225-point total, and obviously the big news on the slate is Kawhi is out for the Clippers, which means that Paul George, 9,300. That's a little bit more than we're used to paying for Paul George. Reggie Jackson, maybe. Gary, what are we doing with this Clippers side with the injury news?
Yeah, so not only is Kawhi out, but John Wall, the corpse that is John Wall, is also out in this game, which is it's going to open up just a ton of value here. These guys are priced as if both of those guys are in. I think you're going to need at least 2, maybe even 3 Clippers in your lineups tonight, just based on what I'm seeing with the pricing. Zubac is going to be very high owned, 5,800 against Sacramento, though. It's an awesome matchup for him. He's looked really good so far. Norman Powell, he's just going to be chucking. He's 4,800. He's going to play close to 30 minutes, if not over 30 minutes here. Like him a ton. Of course, I absolutely love Paul George here. He's probably my favorite 9K and above guy on the slate in this matchup here. And then Reggie Jackson, also 5,700, going to be shooting a ton. And also don't hate Marcus Morris. So there's five guys there, their whole starting five. I don't think I'm going to touch their backups. I'm just going to roll out with these guys, and I'll put 2 or 3 of them in every lineup. But I don't really think you're going to need a run back here. Just looking at the pricing for Sacramento, De'Aaron Fox has done everything for this team in the first game, putting up 54 DraftKings points. I don't think that's going to replicate here. He's 9K. I just prefer Donovan Mitchell, Paul George, all the other spend up options. Domantas Sabonis, 8,800. I'm going to let him show it to me first before I play him. And nobody else on this team for Sacramento is really doing anything for me. I like the mid 5K guys for Detroit and other mid 5K guys we mentioned earlier in the show over like a Harrison Barnes or Kevin Huerter. Definitely not playing those guys. So I'm definitely going to have 2 to 3 Clippers in every lineup. So that's a one rule that I will make in Sabre tonight.
Yeah, and I was just about to ask DC, how many Clippers is too many Clippers?
Yeah, I guess I'll disagree with you guys a little bit on this one. I'm not super high. Listen, the Clippers are obviously fine plays, but I do think it's going to run through Paul George. The Clippers did an 11-man rotation in that first game. So, yeah, you take obviously Kawhi and John Wall out of the equation. That's still a 9-man rotation, and they have a couple other guys that they could introduce into the rotation. We just don't know, but I think it's going to be at least 9 guys. So it's not a super tight rotation. And then, you got a star in Paul George who can soak up a lot of that usage, which is the way I think this game probably ends up going, right? I mean, off the bench, you've still got, Terrence Mann, Luke Kennard, Covington, Batum. So I'm a little worried the rotation gets sloppy here for the Clippers, and the minutes don't go where we think they're going to go. The one thing I do feel pretty sure about, right, is that Paul George is going to pick up a bigger role. That's the thing I feel most certain about with the Clippers. Everything else, I think, is to some degree up in the air. I think my favorite play outside of Paul George is Reggie Jackson, which never feels great playing Reggie Jackson, to be honest. So, yeah, I guess I'm a little bit lower on this team than you guys. Obviously, these guys are fine plays, but I don't feel super confident picking out where they're going to go. I just think like a guy like Noah Vonleh to me is clearly better value than most of these Clippers guys from what I'm looking at. So yeah, I guess I'll be lower on the Clippers in the field for the most part. I will get in, a decent amount of Paul George, but even him, I mean, he's priced up, right? What is he, 9,300, something like that?
Yeah, he's priced at kind of a level where, I mean, he'll obviously be chalky, but I don't think he'll be like crazy out of control.
But I mean, at 9,300, you need 50 fantasy points, right? So even in a good spot, it's not like he's guaranteed to get there either. So I actually don't think you have to go to this game if you don't want to. And then on the Sacramento side, pretty much De'Aaron Fox or bust. He had a huge role in that first game. I think he's going to have a big season. I've read some good things about him. Seems like he's poised for perhaps a breakout year. So he's a good option at 9K too, but he's not cheap. You're not getting a discount there. So not a guy that I'm prioritizing. Just for me, when I look at 9K De'Aaron Fox compared to, I know he's 11K, but I feel pretty good about Giannis, lapping De'Aaron Fox on the slate, to be honest. So can only fit so many studs. I'm not sure how many I'll go to in this game.
All right, guys, I got good news. We got the 320 likes. We really appreciate it. It helps us out over Run Pure Sports. Got 616 heavy watches. That's a really good ratio right there. We shoot for half. We got half. So we're going to have our plays of the day. Gary, it's time for your Groundhog play of the day. Who do you got for us?
So I'm going to go back to a game that y'all didn't really like, and I like it a lot. We're going to see a lot of minutes for these guys. I was debating on going Siakam, but I'm going to go on the other side. I'm going to go Tyler Hero here. I like him a ton tonight. 6,300. I just think that's too cheap, even against Toronto here. They're at home. I think he crushes here. I think he's going to put up another 40-plus fantasy point performance for us tonight. at somewhat low ownership. I'm seeing maybe 10 to 15%. But I still like him a ton. He's probably my favorite play on the slate.
All right, DC, who you got? Who's your mom's basement play of the day?
Yeah, I like the hero call. I would go to Cleveland. I think it's going to be the backcourt that needs to do the work. And I'll go to our man, Donovan Mitchell. I do like Karis LeVert a ton too, but I think Mitchell poised to have a big game here with Darius Garland out for the Cavs. So Donovan Mitchell, mom's basement play today.
All right, and I got my 37x play of the day. I don't got a graphic. I don't need a graphic, and I'm going a little bit off the wall to Mr. Norman Powell, 4,800. I expect him to absolutely chuck it tonight. They signed him to big money. It's not like he's ever going to see the bench for them. It's a close spread here, closer than I think it should be. But Norman Powell at 4,800, it seems like he has an easy path to 35 DK points. And I don't know, maybe he's not as high owned as some of these other guys because, I don't know, maybe not. I hope not, because he's going to be on my lineups. We got to get out of here, though, guys. We got our lineups to build. Gary, any final thoughts for you?
Nah, I'm just hoping that Tyler Hero smashes for us tonight.
Yeah, I understand. He might be making my lineup too. DC, any final thoughts for you?
Nothing crazy. Of course, we got NFL tomorrow. Great lineup. You've got the Wood Show, of course, Crane with Hoop and Big T. And if you're not sick of my face after an hour, I'll be back here in 2 hours' time at 8 Eastern time with AP and Snyder talking the Millie Maker roundtable. So yeah, if you want some more DC time, there you go, 2 hours from now.
Love it. We got all the sports covered over here on Run Pure Sports. And of course, tomorrow, got the big boy football day. We'll be going from like 8 a.m. Central right up until lock. So we got a lot going on over Run Pure Sports. It's been a pleasure, guys. We're going to go ahead and jump out of here. For Gary, for DC, I'm Eric. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you later. Peace.